Hi, welcome to number 3 in our series of Exodus, the story of us. You know, we follow now this story where the Egyptians have finally relented and let the Israelites go. It is a huge victory for the Israelites, and Moses is pumped. They've celebrated the Passover. They're now on their way to the Promised Land. But then something happens. After facing probably the greatest miracle of all of them, with Pharaoh's firstborn dying and then him releasing an entire nation out of slavery, they once again are faced with another challenge of faith. What happens there, I think, is again very telling of what tends to happen when we face something that our own brains, our own intelligence and our rationale and comprehension just can't figure out. There was no way around the Red Sea for them. They'd come up against this immense obstacle, and behind the nation of Israel was the Egyptian army coming closer and closer. Today's session is about how trials reveal what's inside of us. Just as I'm here in my house doing a renovation project, before we can transform this place into something that's usable, we have to get rid of all of the rubbish and the dirt that is underneath to level the place out for something new to come in. Trials have this way of bringing out the dirt in our lives so that we can see it, so that God can show it up to us, so that we can do something about it. I want you to take a look at the Israelites as they face this trial of the Red Sea. I'm going to read now from Exodus 14. You know, they go to Moses and they say, "Moses, is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you've taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not what we said to you in Egypt? We said, 'Leave us alone that we might serve the Egyptians.' For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." A few things happen when we hit a roadblock, a problem that we can't solve. One, we tend to exaggerate the situation. The Israelites said, "Moses, have you brought us here to die?" Like they think the Egyptians are going to come over and just kill them. The reality was, I don't think the Egyptians were ever going to kill all of them. Maybe Moses might have died, but certainly not all the slaves. Why would Pharaoh pursue his slave army only to wipe them out? He wanted his economy back. He wanted these people back to be his slaves. So he might have punished them, but he wouldn't have killed them. But they're all thinking, "Oh, we're all going to die." Another thing that happens is sometimes when we face troubles, we have a fuzzy memory of our past. We forget the old situation. And the Israelites, when faced with the Red Sea, they look back and they said, "We would have been better off as slaves. God, we said to you, God, leave us alone." That's not true. They spent most of their years of slavery crying out to God, lamenting and asking for salvation. They probably forgot how tough it was to live under oppression and slavery. And it's very easy for us to take for granted the previous things that God has done for us. And then I think sometimes what we do, the third thing that happens when we face an obstacle that we can't figure out our way out of is, unfortunately, even in my own life sometimes, I abandon God. They abandoned God. They went, "You know what? We're just going to take matters into our own hands. We're just going to deal with it ourselves. God, you can't help us at all." Trials have this way of bringing out what we really put our trust in, what really lies underneath us. When it comes down to the crunch, do we trust God to look after our children? Do we trust God to look after our lives? Or are we going to take matters into our own hands? Are we going to look at a situation and because we can't figure a way out of it, say it's just too bleak and we're doomed to die. Unfortunately, that's a story in a lot of our lives. It certainly has been a story in my life as well. I think it's in the Bible as a testimony to us that God can pull through, that God is a God that does miracles. The end of this story is that they get to the other side because of a miracle that God does. God has performed many miracles in my life, and He will do some in yours. Many miracles lie ahead. God is concerned about forming a trust in Him in your life. So I hope you'll have a robust discussion in your home group today, and you will look at the different trials that are being faced in your life, and you will reflect on how that brings out what's already inside of you. God bless.